How did Air Bud go from a movie about a boy and his basketball-playing dog tackling grief and the quiet self-doubt of adolescence to this bullshit? If you've never seen the 1997 movie Air Bud, change that. It's a wonderful movie that shows us the only thing you need to establish an entire studio around a movie is 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, an unwritten rule that saved us just narrowly from an Ace Ventura Studios. Probably for the best. Bruce Almighty is still in play though, we just can't look too close. But there's something weird about the way that Air Bud movies have evolved over time. Even if you haven't seen them, you know that Air Bud is a dog who plays basketball. But did you know that despite the fact that Air Bud Entertainment has put out like 25 movies, no animal or person really has played a sport for Air Bud Entertainment in like 20 years? That doesn't make sense. So, why do I know this? Why am I focused on this? Well, originally I was wondering, would Air Bud win America's Got Talent? To uncover the answer to this question, I googled, how many baskets has Air Bud made, and I found a number that I just could not believe. Obviously, this number needed more context, which led me to knowing everything about Air Bud, ever. And I'm going to tell you all of it, but the thing that's sticking with me is how it's connected to the downfall of Air Bud in general. To understand Air Bud Entertainment, let's start at the beginning with the original Air Bud, who was a dog named Buddy who actually did play basketball. The movie was written for and about him, not the other way around. He was not just an actor, he was the subject. And I'm going to warn you, some of this is very dry, but a lot of it's very sad, so it kind of has to be dry, so just bear with me a little bit, please. In 1989, Kevin DeCicco found Buddy outside of an abandoned gold mine. He was malnourished and loaded up with buckshot all in his torso. Despite this, Buddy had what TikTok would describe as golden retriever energy, immediately offering Kevin a pine cone in hopes to see it thrown for him. I did not mean that for that to rhyme. Every dog loves to play, but Buddy had what could only be described as a compulsion. Being so play-focused that he would refuse to eat unless his ball was literally in the bowl with his food. Because of how ball-obsessed Buddy was, Kevin considered him to be a danger to himself and others if he were to chase the ball rather than just catch it. So he morphed their play into a sort of pitcher-catcher thing, and Buddy was really good at it. So good that he would eventually become what Kevin described as a five-sport animal. He could play basketball, baseball, soccer, football, and hockey. The last one giving us my favorite picture ever taken by anyone ever. Look at this. Look how good he is at this. But no sport captured Buddy's attention quite like basketball. When there was basketball nearby, Buddy locked in, scoring his first 2 points on August 21st of 1990. It only took about 4,000 attempts and 6 months, which none of my dogs have ever done it, so that's record time. Following their achievement, Kevin rented a camcorder and they took on the 90s like a dog on a soccer field. That's to say they had goals in mind. The duo first entered the public eye by taking second place in America's Funniest Home Videos, losing by just 1 vote to a video of some babies making out. A strong case for implementing the Electoral College on this show, though sometimes losing by 1 point is for the best. Buddy was a recurring guest on Letterman's Stupid Pet Tricks, which the hell can your pet do, dude? He did a little Reading Rainbow, and he also had a cameo as Comet for one episode of Full House, the one where Comet plays basketball. In his short career, Buddy made over 150 major appearances, and this is before we even get to his feature film. All this to say, Buddy was really popular. The team was ambitious, with Kevin's stated goal being to encourage what he called responsible pet ownership, consisting of regular exercise with your dog. He figured by adapting human sports to animal play, people would be more eager to go beyond the bare minimum twice-a-day walk. To facilitate this, they made a very 1990s instructional VHS so people like you or me could train our dogs to be as badass as Air Bud. The partner piece to this was a screenplay for a movie called Mascot, a very early version of what we know to be Air Bud. The movie would show you that a dog can play basketball, and the instructional video would show you that your dog can play basketball. Got the VHS, by the way, so watch out, Letterman. Bitch. Lost media heads seethe. It's all mine. Mascot would eventually get picked up by a small indie studio called Keystone, then run by Robert Vince, who, I'm gonna say it, I don't care for. Up to this point, Keystone had exclusively put out forgettable trash, and Air Bud was slated to be their flagship film. It was gonna get them out of C-movie territory and into people see our movie territory. In pre-production, Mascot was transformed into a more marketable, family-friendly film about a young boy struggling with the death of his cross-dressing test pilot dad and the reality of having an Islamophobic grandfather. Like I said, never look too close. It's about a kid dealing with loss and abandonment in a world that keeps letting him down. Josh is grieving his father, adjusting to a new town, and barely speaking. He doesn't think he deserves anything good, friends, attention, or even the opportunity to try and join the basketball team. And then here comes this fucking dog, also abandoned, also silent in his own way. Josh is choosing to self-isolate, but Buddy's an outcast against his will. And yet he balls hard, and those two heal together through play. Many critics wrote it off as a gimmick, but I remember watching Air Bud as a kid and having it be one of the very few movies that I wasn't embarrassed to watch. It had just the right amount of dog playing basketball to balance its message. In an era where everything was extreme and loud, Air Bud was introspective and quiet, raising the bar further by blending these absolutely beautiful landscape shots with these theatrically framed basketball sequences. Of course, it did have its okay dude moments, like Air Bud sensing child abuse happening nearby and that one scene that made everyone think that Buddy is Josh's dad coming back Jack Frost style, but it's a sweet movie still. The original Air Bud had soul and was very clearly made with love. It held so much of Buddy and Kevin's real story that it felt grounded even though it was stupid. The silly concept made sense because Buddy could actually play basketball. No jump cuts, no CGI, just Buddy, a dog that would have been doing this even if none of us were looking. And really, Air Bud was too good to be true. People refused to believe what their own eyes were telling them. Robert Ebert, in his rather generous review of Air Bud, says, "Now then, can this dog really shoot baskets? I doubt it," he said, wrongly, just 16 years before his death. For its release, Keystone landed Harvey Weinstein's Miramax, recently acquired by Disney, as its distributor. And against modest expectations, Air Bud was a sleeper hit. A budget of just $3 million saw a $4 million opening weekend and nearly $28 million for its full run. Parents appreciated its positive message and diversity, I guess. This is in the any positive content section, and I know they didn't rate it very high, but they still put it in the positive content section, so I guess they liked it. And most importantly, kids fell in love with Buddy, regularly writing him fan mail to tell him how cute and talented he is and how they love to watch him play. Once Disney and Keystone noticed they had a hot property on their hands, they started planning for a whole litter of sequels, almost immediately going into Air Bud 2, Golden Receiver, a football-themed follow-up. But dogs can't play football. What are you watching? There were two big problems though. First, Buddy was sick. During the filming of the original movie, he had been diagnosed with cancer, resulting in one of his hind legs being amputated. Of course, he lived to ball and would continue pursuing his passions for as long as he could, but Keystone and their powerful new distribution partner wanted him to stop balling expeditiously. The studio effectively banished Buddy from the press tour because he was sick and went as far as to demand Kevin walk him in secret. This is where they began to bury Buddy alive in order to turn the real cross-trained canine into a character. They wanted a franchise, and Buddy being sick would make audiences sad. Trying to compromise, Kevin had offered to finally use one of about a dozen generations of liquid Buddy he had frozen somewhere in California, which won. But Disney didn't need him and opted to use regular dog actors instead. After all, they had just as much access to the Air Bud training video as anyone else and could easily teach their dog actors to play ball too. And it really is super easy. And did Disney bury this? So yeah, they could train their own dogs, and despite the fact that no dog loves basketball as much as Buddy, the creation of a sport dog farm allowed for the original Air Bud to be just a character created by Kevin DeChico. A perfect solution for the studio because characters don't die, dogs do. Kevin, keeping busy while trying to hide Buddy from the public, successfully found him a wife in Cleveland named Taffy, who birthed 9 talented tax babies. One of them so eager to hit the court that she fell out of her mother's birth canal and almost died in the parking lot, and nobody noticed as they carried Taffy into the animal hospital. During the puppy's 6 weeks of nursing, the puppy survived, by the way. Would be super fucked up for me to even bring it up if she didn't. During the puppy's 6 weeks of nursing, Buddy's condition worsened until, on February 12, 1998, just 6 months after Air Bud hit theaters, he died in his sleep at just 9 years old. 10 hours before Kevin was set to return home with the litter so Buddy could meet his puppies for the first time. Buddy's death marked a tragedy for his family and a convenient turning point for the studios, who no longer had to worry about the real dog complicating their brand-building plans. Rubbing salt in Kevin's fresh, Buddy-shaped wound, the studio refused to pay him the 10% of net profits he was contractually entitled to, and managed to strip him of his rights to the Air Bud name. By April of that same year, Kevin was preparing a, quote, massive lawsuit against Keystone to get what he was owed, and also argue that he had coined the name Air Bud years earlier. After all, his company had been called Air Bud Productions since 1991, and thus he, not the studio, owned the rights to the name. A fact that I can confirm for us right here. Yeah, Air Bud Productions says it right on there. Who would have guessed? Following this accusation, the unimpressive Robert Vince scoffed at the idea, stating that no studio would invest millions in a movie without owning the rights outright. Maybe. I don't know. We don't know much about Keystone pre-Air Bud. We don't know if you were a reputable studio who knew how to write a contract, dude. Looking at your previous works, it's kind of, wow. It's kind of badass, dude. Jesus. Man, maybe Air Bud did more damage to you than you did to him, because you should have kept making this. This is sick. Vince, who is now steering the franchise, publicly minimized both Kevin's role and Buddy's existence. To him, Buddy was just another dog who made him incredibly rich and then died. Saying in one interview, "I personally like Kevin, and personally feel sad that his dog passed away. But he's not a businessman. He trained the dog, so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't understand these practical things." Fuck you, dude. His name was Buddy. Sorry, did you forget that after he dragged you out of the C-movie gutter? Did you forget that after he made you rich? Is that what happened? Hang on. Hang on. Pause this fucking hang on. You worm. You disgusting little... I'm just gonna cut in here because it would be irresponsible to broadcast this guy's thoughts. I don't even know who that is, but he's very passionate, and he must stand for something. He certainly believes something. I don't know if he believes what he's saying, but you know, in a hypothetical world, he's certainly very passionate. And you know what? As long as we're following Robert Vince's rules around Air Bud and I guess life in general, that guy doesn't exist. He doesn't fucking exist. You know what? Actually, I have some things to say also. There's a lot of big feelings going around today, and while I can sympathize with these men, these strangers who I don't know, I can't condone their words or the things they're saying, so I'm going to continue to silence them. And it looks like they're wrapping up. How can you live with yourself after devaluing this dog into nothing more than a character? If he is just a character, why is it that when you release the commercial flop Air Bud Golden Receiver, it opens with a scene of Buddy storming the court because he loves basketball so much? Could it be because the real Buddy who loved basketball so much stormed the court of Game 1 of the 1992 first-round NBA playoffs? And then was physically removed by Dennis Rodman? How convenient that this character was there for you to draw such close inspiration from. How convenient. Kevin DeChico was cut out and Buddy was erased from existence so you could peddle this trash.
This is Chewy, and this is Bowie.
Did we make a friend?
Look at what, for all time, the real Buddy, the real five-sport animal, shepherds us into. Look at these movies made by Robert Vince's Air Bud Entertainment.
But you're nothing but a soft toy underneath. You ain't got no muscle behind those teeth. I'll be serving you up like last week's lunch meat.
I can't believe he said that.
Welcome to the Puppy Mill, a direct-to-video industrial complex. Between 1999 and 2003, 3 more sequels were released straight to VHS and DVD, each one putting the character of Buddy into a new jump-cut heavy sport. He plays soccer in World Pup, where he also meets Molly, his soon-to-be wife, and also Molly's owner, who Josh's probably named love interest. I'm sure she has a name. She's an American doing what we're told is a British accent.
Listen, Josh, Daddy wants to throw a bash for the team.
Would you like to come?
Buddy wins the Women's World Cup, which I don't even want to get into. Next is baseball. In 7th inning fetch, he plays for the Anaheim Angels, making it the second time those fuckers have cheated in some way. And finally, volleyball. In Air Bud Spikes Back, nice pun, the first movie to not have Buddy's owner Josh in it. Buddy and Josh's sister Andrea team up for beach volleyball, while also stopping a pair of thieves who want to steal a diamond or something. These movies act as an off-ramp from the sports content, and each one of them stepping more into a buddy cop situation where some kind of plot must be stopped by this dog and whoever tags along. The sleepy, wholesome, small-town charm of the first film, gone. Somehow, they made a movie about a dog who can play basketball, formulaic in record time. The emotional stakes diminished with each entry, and the Air Bud sequels became more about like harmless hijinks and less about any real narrative depth. Still, the formula worked well enough to set the stage for something targeted at a younger, less discerning demographic. In 2006, Disney released the first Air Buddies movie, a spin-off that jettisoned the original premise of a boy and his basketball-playing dog altogether. Instead, Air Buddies focuses on Buddies puppies, a diverse group of dogs with distinct personalities like Buddhist, M&M fan, and girl. A big change now is that the dogs can talk, but only to each other. Humans don't understand them, which is fine, and also all the animals have their own. I'm not gonna stop. No, stop it. Air Buddies retcons a multitude of things for seemingly no reason. These puppies did not need to be Buddies' children for the concept to work. This fact is supported by the fact that in Air Buddies, no person or dog is even shown playing basketball, or any sport for that matter. Also, Air Bud talks now, too.
What did I teach you pups about teamwork?
Why does he talk like that?
Worth noting that back in 1998, Kevin DeCicco had announced plans for Air Bud: The Next Generation, starring the real Buddy's actual offspring. An idea that he never got to realize because Robert Vince and Disney, took everything and barred him from ever using the Air Bud name ever again. The name of his dog, who was literally Air Bud. Not the inspiration for Air Bud, not the character Air Bud. He was Air Bud. Fuck you, Disney. Air Buddies was a hit on home video, and thus a new formula was born. What if we take these talking puppies and put them into literally any scenario at all? Kids will watch that, right? Yeah. Air Buddies would release 7 movies between 2006 and 2013, each dumber than the last. Here's a quick breakdown of those. Air Buddies, they rescue their dog-napped parents, Buddy and Molly, while learning the importance of family and teamwork. And also they set the stage for the fact that they can talk.
But I already got mad love for my peeps right here.
Okay.
Snow Buddies, the first Air Bud movie that wasn't allowed to say no dogs were harmed in the making of this film, because 2 of the puppy actors died outright and 3 were euthanized. They used puppies that were only 6 weeks old, an age far too young to be taken from their mother, and their immune systems simply weren't developed enough to be a part of this production. But don't worry, Snow Buddies shoveled in over $50 million in domestic video sales, so it's a small, defenseless price to pay for that house in Malibu. Also, founder, established 1991? You mean the company that Kevin DeCicco founded in 1991, 5 years before he made the mistake of involving you in his dog's life? Very Elon Musk of you. We continue. Space Buddies, they go to space. Santa Buddies, they are Santa, or some shit. Spooky Buddies, they fight a wizard, I think. Treasure Buddies, they go to Egypt to grave rob a pyramid. I don't know, I stopped watching them. Super Buddies, they find Green Lantern rings and defeat Galactus, which I think might actually be the most accurate summary I've given of any of the Air Buddies movies. You may have noticed the Buddies do not play any sports aside from a brief and tragic dog sledding run, which, mind you, is a sport that only dogs can play, so not very impressive given their cinematic bloodline. The real Buddy would have been, like, here, where the guy goes. Air Bud Entertainment, under Robert Vince's leadership, is now making films not even connected to Air Bud, but instead focusing on talking and singing animals, doing I don't even know what.
That's what I'm talking about.
Make some good friends that we'll never forget.
Yeah, man.
There is a wrestling movie, so I guess sports are back. Never mind, that's wishful thinking. Maybe this one where the dogs are in school?
Into dogs we will grow.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Totally off script here. This has to be money laundering. This visual effects studio that only does like Air Bud Entertainment dog mouths. Like they have like their portfolio listed out, and they only have Air Bud movies listed here. Come on. You can contact them. Any budget, I can tell. You didn't need to tell me any budget, dude. Air Bud was grounded in reality because Air Bud could actually do what he showed us in the movie, and there really isn't a rule that says a dog can't play basketball. While I can't say where Kevin DeCicco would have taken the franchise had he remained involved, I can judge what it looks like without him. Soulless corporate trash that erased real magic from the world in exchange for artificial, formulaic, ADHD fodder. The world is worse off because most people remember Buddy for what Robert Vince made of him, rather than what Kevin DeCicco revealed in him. The best piece of Air Bud media to come out since the original comes in the form of Go Buddy, which DeCicco self-published in 2012 to tell the true story behind the films, or I guess the film that he was involved in. It's a resource I used in making this video, and honestly, a really great read. In the book, he celebrates Buddy's impact and memorializes the authentic journey that got buried under all those sequels. And he didn't even know what was to come. Robert Vince is rarely mentioned, and Kevin hardly ever talks about how everyone, kind of fucked him over, despite having glowing things to say about every other producer he worked with during Buddy's journey. And while I can't say for certain, this kind of leads me to assume that they reached some sort of settlement and DeCicco is possibly barred from making disparaging comments about anyone involved. Knowing Disney, this settlement would be a pittance compared to the gains he's owed for giving the world Air Bud. The book is a feel-good story for the most part, and it's only with the external context found in the endless tabs I've had open in Safari for the past week that the tragedy of it all really comes together. But it doesn't end with Buddy. As recently as March of 2025, DeCicco is without permanent residence and struggling with an endless barrage of health issues. The man who once did NBA halftime shows and table reads with Buddy is now sick and homeless, even as Air Bud branded content continues to roll out on streaming platforms. He's now surviving off of America's most reliable health insurance provider, GoFundMe, to survive. And while donations regularly trickle in from generous fans and former crew members who remember Kevin and Buddy fondly, it's a bittersweet reality. The Air Bud franchise has made hundreds of millions of dollars over the years, yet the man who started it all, who saw something special in his best friend, is relying on charity just to survive. The original Air Bud still stands as a uniquely charming film. It's a movie that, against all odds, earned its emotional beats. There's an earnest simplicity to it, a testament to what Kevin and Buddy created together. No amount of sequels can take away the fact that Buddy was a real dog who could play basketball and brought joy to millions of people for doing it. Buddy starred in a movie about himself. Buddy lost to those babies making out on America's Funniest Home Videos. Buddy stormed the court at the NBA playoffs. And Buddy approached a young Kevin DeCicco with a pine cone in his mouth and the desire to see it thrown for him. Because Buddy was a real dog. Not a character, not an inspiration. He was a real dog who loved to play basketball. Fuck you, Disney.
You've heard of Lassie and Rin Tin Tin, the dogs of the world are man's best friend. Here's the MVP, most valuable pooch. His name is Air Bud, he's gonna shoot some hoop. Air Bud is gonna shoot some hoop. Shoot some hoop. Air Bud is gonna shoot some hoop. Shoot some hoop. Non-stop action, a four-legged Mo Jackson. He's a multi-sport star. This dog's going far. Baseball, hockey, basketball too. They're just